may.
Please introduce yourself to the court.
Hello, my name is Hayden Duran.
What do you do for a living?
Well, I am Director of Information Technology at Medical Hospital, but I like to consider my most important job being a father to my son, Jesse.
How are you related to today's case?
Well, my son, Jesse, was with Cindy Park the day of the accident.
Could you describe your son Jesse for the court?
My son Jesse has always been a very enthusiastic boy. Whenever he finds something he's interested in, he becomes completely engrossed in the matter.
So let's talk about some of Jesse's interests. Could you describe to the court what was one of Jesse's main interests growing up?
I can remember since the age of 5. He's always been interested in those little green army men. See, my father was a career military man, and once he passed away, he gave me a few of his war medals. I in then turn showed Jesse these medals. I believe that's what sparked Jesse's interest in the military.
Did Jesse ever take his interest in the military any further?
Yes, when he got older, I decided to buy him a video game system in which he could play some of the less violent military games.
Now you said less violent military games. What do you mean by less violent?
Well, before I would let my son play any of these video games, I would personally play them myself and make sure that they were in fact less violent. And after playing them, all the corny lines and bad graphics, I decided these games were suitable for my son to play. There were also a few accessories that you could hook up to the TV to emulate real-life shooting, but I saw no reason for my son to have these. I wanted the experience to be as unrealistic as possible.
Mr. Duran, did you ever play these games with Jesse?
Yes, for the first few times I did.
Why did you do this?
I did this to ensure my son that these games were in fact fictional. I remember sitting them down and telling him, what you're seeing on the screen is pretend, and that in real life, guns are bad and war is very sad.
Mr. Duran, now I'd like to turn your attention to Sydney Park and talk about Jesse and Sydney's relationship. How did Jesse and Sydney Park meet?
Well, Jesse and Sydney first met when the Parks moved into our neighborhood.
Were Jesse and Sydney friends?
Well, yes, they hit it off right off the bat. By the time they were 5 years old, they were already inseparable, running back between each other's houses, just constantly with each other.
Now, to the best of your knowledge, when Jesse and Sydney Park were at the Parks home, was anyone watching them?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, their babysitter, Danny Brooks, was to be present most of the time when they were there.
Now, did Danny Brooks ever talk to you about Jesse's behavior while he was at the Parks home?
Yes, he did express Jesse's interest in the military, and that both Jesse and Sydney enjoyed playing games that involved fake shooting. I think he was saying cops and robbers, things like that.
How did you respond to what Danny Brooks told you?
Well, I sat down with Jesse and wanted just to remind him that these games of fake shooting are not real, and that in fact real shooting is very bad. But I mean, when I was growing up, I played cops and robbers myself, so I honestly didn't see anything to worry about.
Now, were any other concerns raised when Jesse was at the Parks home?
Yes, the Parks had a gun in their house, and Brooks brought that to my attention.
How did you respond to finding out that the Parks had a gun in their home?
Well, I sat Jesse down and had a very lengthy conversation with him about how the gun that is in the Parks home is not like the guns that are illustrated in the video games. And in fact, these guns are very dangerous and can hurt or in fact kill people.
Now, when did you find out about the gun in the Parks home?
I found out the evening of August 17th, 2000.
Did you ever talk to Andy Park about her gun?
I unfortunately wasn't able to talk to Andy Park about that. I picked Jesse up the evening. Andy was not there at the time, and by the time it was the morning, I was running late for work and didn't get a chance to talk to Andy about the gun.
Mr. Duran, now I'm going to need you to talk about August 18, 2010, the day of the incident. Were you planning on letting Jesse and Sydney Park play together that day?
Yes, they were to go over around 9 o'clock.
And what happened when you dropped Jesse off at the Parks home?
Well, Andy informed me that their babysitter called in and would not be present at the time, and that instead a neighbor, Keith Dunlap, would be on call periodically checking in on the children.
Mr. Duran, when did you find out that something had happened at the Parks home?
Well, I was driving on my way to work when I got a call from the police saying that there had been an incident at the Parks home that you should report there immediately.
Did you drive to the Parks home?
I did.
What did you see when you got there?
It was just completely surrounded by police cars and other emergency personnel. And I just got an immense fear of panic, and I just knew that I needed to find my son immediately.
Did you go inside the Parks home?
Yes, I was escorted by 2 police officers into the Parks.
And when you entered the Parks home, what did you see?
I saw Sydney on the ground with a white sheet covering her. She was not moving at all. That just made my fears so much more worse. I just needed to find my son.
And did you find Jesse?
I did.
And when you found Jesse, what happened?
He just looked at me and just said, Sydney was the one that opened the safe. It was all Sydney's idea.
Now, Mr. Duran, the next few questions are very important to the jury's understanding of your interactions with your son. Why are you here today?
I am here because I'm being sued for parental negligence.
Mr. Duran, when Jesse played war video games, did you talk to him about how dangerous guns could be?
Yes, I did.
And when Danny Brooks talked to you about Jesse playing cops and robbers, did you talk to Jesse about how dangerous guns could be?
Yes, I did.
And when Danny Brooks told you that there was a gun in the Parks home, did you follow up with Jesse?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. I may wait till the judge is done.
You may. Yeah, give him a second.
I'm wordy. No votes. I'm going to put it.
Go ahead.
Deputy Beasley for the plaintiff, may I inquire?
You may.
Good afternoon. You have spent a great deal of time at work.
Yes, my job does entail me to work a great amount of hours.
And because of this, you felt a little guilty.
I mean, I felt like, felt a little bad not being able to spend as much time with Jesse, but that's why I bought him a dog, to kind of have a little companionship going on.
You also bought Jesse video games.
I did. His main focus was with the dog. I mean, he always wanted something to raise on his own and be very loving and nurturing to it, but there were a few video games that I bought for him as well.
Amongst these video games, some of them had mature content.
A few of them did depict military action, which is deemed to be violent. That's correct.
So you would agree some of these games contain content that would be violent?
I mean, I think with all military games, there is some degree of violence that occurs in them.
You purchase games for Jesse that allowed the player to see through the eyes of the shooter?
I didn't purchase these games until he was at the age of 10.
So at the age of 10, you allowed your son to play these violent video games?
Those were the ones that I deemed appropriate for him to play, along with the corny lines and bad graphics in them, correct?
You had expressed concern about one of the games Jesse enjoyed playing.
It was a little bit more violent than the other.
I see. And with this concern, you wrote an email. Permission to retrieve the email from evidence?
Yes, that's probably.
Yep.
There she goes.
I'm now approaching a witness with the email.
Your Honor, may I see the document before he shows the witness?
Yes.
Now may I approach the witness with the email? What have I handed you?
You abandoned me an email.
I see. Within this email, you expressed concern about one of the games Jesse had been playing.
I did express some concern about the content of the video game that Jesse was playing.
I see. You also expressed concern about a quote from your son, Jesse.
It was, I mean, yeah, it was this one.
Let's see, was this the only time Jesse had made a comment similar to that?
To my knowledge, yes.
No, yes. Commissioner Trevor?
You tender a copy of that shit.
Now, you recall a disciplinary notice from the school.
Yes, there was a disciplinary notice that Jesse had in school. He had a little trouble fitting in.
Your Honor, permission to approve disciplinary notice? Wish to approach opposing counsel for disciplinary notice?
You may.
Permission to approach the witness in turn? What have I handed you?
You've handed me a disciplinary notice given to my son from the school.
Within that disciplinary notice, did your son make any comment similar to the one you quoted in your email?
Not particularly. I mean, it was some sort of aggression. He had somewhat of a short temper, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything.
So you would agree that he had exhibited violent behavior, and that is why this disciplinary notice had been sent to you?
Objection, Your Honor. Improper character evidence. Opposing counsel is attempting to show that Jesse's violent behavior at school would be in conformity therewith on the day of August 18th, 2010, and that is inadmissible.
May I respond?
You may.
Your Honor, we are merely showing that Hayden Duran had knowledge of this incident and had signed off on the disciplinary notice that had been presented to him.
Okay, I was thinking about this on the break. Correct me if I'm wrong, but 404 allows for character evidence to be offered if not used to show action conformity and if used to show knowledge or notice or any essential element of a claim. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, overruled.
Would, let's see here. Permission to retrieve the disciplinary notice from the witness?
You may.
Permission to tender it back to the bench? Now, you had several discussions with your son about dangerous guns.
Absolutely.
One of these discussions you would recall on August 17th. Jesse Duran claims he wanted to hold a real gun, to see a real gun.
He expressed interest in wanting to see it open. That's true.
You were also aware that the Parks had a real gun in their home.
Yes, because of the series of break-ins that were going on in the neighborhood, and they, naturally wanted to keep themselves protected.
So, after Jesse mentioned wanting to see this real gun, to hold a real gun, you had a talk with Jesse.
Yes, I just wanted to reiterate to Jesse that the real gun that was in the Parks home was unlike the guns that were depicted in the video games that he played, and that in fact this gun could in fact do bodily harm to a human being, and it was in fact very dangerous. And I wanted to make that explicitly clear to my son.
In response to this conversation, you say Jesse shrugged and walked away.
That was a typical response for him at that time. I mean, growing up, he was about to hit the preteen phase, a little moody here and there, but, the general shrug was just like an understanding that we had.
Typical response. Now, in light of this,
Objection, Your Honor. Opposing counsel just testified.
Yeah, I'm going to sustain that and strike it, just.
in light of this, you made no attempt to punish Jesse for shrugging and walking away.
I mean, that was a typical response he had. I mean, he always had a little bit of sass in him, but I mean, it wasn't anything that was disrespectful to me. I mean, it was just kind of the way we communicated.
You made no attempt to further push the issue with Jesse that night.
I felt like he had a firm grasp based on the numerous conversations that we had in the past about how the gun in the Parks house was very dangerous and unlike the one that we had playing in video games. So I felt like it was substantial enough for a 10-year-old to understand that.
You didn't inform the Parks of this incident.
At the time, I could have in the morning. I was already running very late for work and already had made a difficult decision of leaving my son alone in the house with Sydney, having no other option with my work. The incident at the time just didn't come up.
The next day, August 18th, you allow Jesse to return to the park zone.
I did.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any redirect?
No to redirect, Your Honor.
Ms. May step down. Defense of another witness.
Yes, Your Honor, at this time, defense calls Ash DeRosa.